How could God use a rough lump of clay like me? Can God really use a scientist? Whilst my Catholic upbringing meant the lump of clay started life smoothly, it quickly fell apart in teenage years as I was shaped by the world around me instead. It was not until much later, when I met the Spirit of Jesus in others, that I realized I could be shaped another way. I am the clay, you are the potter. A Brethren church in Ringwood began the journey of moulding me, and then New Hope in Blackburn shaped me into something recognisable. However, it was in the workplace as a scientist that my faith was put through the refiner's fire twice. The first time, over 25 years ago, tested my decision to follow Jesus as I suddenly found myself facing redundancy. As I wrestled with God, it was not about work or even my family. The wrestle was about putting God first and demonstrating this publicly. Immediately I made plans for baptism. The second, nearly 10 years ago now, was when my future career as a leader in the workplace evaporated almost overnight. Everything I had worked so hard for disappeared as God challenged me about how I would spend the rest of my working life. I made the decision then to give it all to God with no real idea of what that meant. I am the clay, you are the potter. I enrolled in theological study at Whitley. I trained and volunteered as a crisis counsellor and as a hospital chaplain, trying to work out what God was calling me to. Then, in God's perfect timing, I was offered the opportunity to pastor a chapel, a new community of faith emerging from the weekly community meal, Dinner Tonight, where I already served. I'm so thankful to the chapel community as they embraced me as their pastor. We have shed tears of joy and sadness and have grown together in the unconditional love of Jesus. Chapel opened my eyes to what God had been calling me to all along. I am the clay, you are the potter. The calling was affirmed through discernment with New Hope and recognised by the BUV in Whitley as I entered the ordination programme that added function to the clay being moulded on the potter's wheel. I'm a lump of clay that can easily lose its shape, slipping out of the hands that are moulding it, and even making the potter's wheel run unevenly. There remained a challenge. I was serving as pastor, studying but still working full-time as a scientist. In God's perfect timing, with doors around me closing, Anglesey Baptist looked to the ordination programme for a pastor to lead them. In accepting me, they have encouraged the clay to become a unique vessel for God to use full-time. That calling that had begun nearly 10 years ago had been answered. I am now a lump of clay, formed by church experience and given function by the training and equipping of your union to be a vessel for God to pour out His love into a broken world. I am the clay, you are the potter.